Hi everyone, I'm Coach Nicole and I'm going to be going through hydration and water with you guys today. We're often talking about water and why is it important and 2-3 liters, and yeah, so I'm going to be going through that with you today. Please leave a message to say you're hi, like, or say hi to me and let me know that you're there. Yeah, so just say hi and I will say hi back. So I'm just trying to put up the comments. Okay, I can't see the comments, so we're just going to get started. But I hope you guys are ready and excited because I am really excited about this topic. This is important for me because I personally battle with water, which is why I decided to talk about water and hydration today, to try and help encourage myself and motivate myself to be better with it. So yeah, let's go straight into it. Great. So water is so important, or hydration in general, and it's important that we stay well hydrated because majority of our water, or a large component of our water of our body, is water, and it's a plentiful nutrient in our diet. So we need to make sure that we're drinking enough in the day. Total body water varies with age, gender, as well as muscle mass and adiposity, which is your fat mass. As you get older, it generally reduces. So if you look at birth, 75 to 85% of our total body of our body is total body water. And then as we get older, you can see it reduces. In a lean adult, it's about 60 to 70%. And then obese adults only have 40 to 55%. So it's quite obvious then that athletes would have more, will have a higher percentage than non-athletes. And then also looking at your metabolically active cells of muscle and viscera would have the highest percentage. Majority of water intake is contributed by juice, milk, tea, decaffeinated coffee, carbonated beverages. And solid food also contributes towards our water intake, but it actually doesn't count towards our total fluid intake per day. If you look at survival, for example, you'll see that healthy adults can survive about 10 days without water versus several weeks without food. So you can see that water intake alone is so important. So we lose water in various ways, just breathing, perspiration, gastrointestinal tract through, feces and our kidneys. So when we breathe, that air we breathe in and out has water that we lose. So we lose it that way. Obviously on our skin, when you're getting hot, you perspire. And then our kidneys are involved in urination and removal of waste, which I'll go more in depth later. But it's important that we replace this fluid that we lose in the day. Not only just to replace the water in our body, but we need the water we lose, but we need to make sure that we're getting enough to help with bodily functions, to regulate our body temperature, to maintain blood volume, as well as transporting of our nutrients around the body. We have, for example, vitamins that are water soluble, so we require water to be able to absorb them properly. Also, removal waste, like I mentioned, your kidneys, your gastrointestinal tract remove waste, but with it, water is also lost. And what it does is it helps make these products more soluble for excretion, and also helps make sure our bowels are regular. Also, cushioning of organs, joints, moistening of body tissues. These are all reasons why we need to make sure we're getting enough fluid in our body. Mild dehydration can have negative impacts on our body, but yeah, any form of dehydration has it affects our body's ability to function. So we look at 20% loss that can cause death. 10% can lead to damage of essential body systems. Mild dehydration, like I said, can have negative impacts on our cognitive function and alertness, can increase our heart rate, as well as reduce our ability to exercise. So it's really important that we're making sure we do not get dehydrated. This is often the first sign, but sometimes we can actually become dehydrated before any signs or symptoms show up. So make sure that you drink regularly throughout the day before you get thirsty to try and avoid any sort of dehydration. The risk groups include athletes and workers who work at hot and hard climates or hard environments. Also, your infants, sick individuals, elderly, they're also at risk because they won't necessarily be able to always perceive thirst, or aware of that. So it's important that they also regularly hydrate. Severe dehydration. Symptoms of that includes blue lips, cold hands and feet, splotchy skin, rapid breathing, high fever, confusion, lack of energy, and unconsciousness. So those are just symptoms of severe dehydration. Causes of dehydration include, well, the obvious is that the fluid that you take in is less than the fluid that you lose, or less than your requirements. You can also have excessive losses, such as that with fever. If you have a high temperature, environments that are hot, you can end up perspiring more than normal. Increased urine output, diarrhea, as well as vomiting, any sort of wounds that drain. With diarrhea and vomiting, just make sure you are rehydrating. So if you want to, you can make a rehydrate solution yourself instead of actually buying one of those little sachets. So the amount of salt and sugar you need is 6 teaspoons of salt, 6 teaspoons of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 liter of water. And then you just mix that, and then make sure that you are having a sips after every loose stool or after every vomit. That'll help make sure that you do not get dehydrated when you are feeling sick. And then signs and symptoms of dehydration. So these things we can look out for: body weight loss, low body temperature. One of the obvious ones is your urine. If it's strong swelling or dark, or even a decreased output, that's normally a sign that you are dehydrated. Feeling faint or dizzy, tired, having headaches, irritable, those are also signs. Like I said, thirst is one of the first signs. Decreased appetite is another sign. And then things like skin tinting or decreased poor skin turgor. So what you can do is you can test it. If you pinch your forehead and your skin doesn't return back, relatively quickly, and it kind of stays in a sort of tented position, then you are but dehydrated, you're not drinking enough. Also low blood pressure, tachycardia, which is rapid heart beat, or altered serum levels, so like your blood levels of sodium, albumin, BUN, which is your nitrogen levels, as well as creatinine values. Those would also vary, but you won't know that unless you actually get a blood test. So rather go with the other things like thirst, urine, your dizziness, if you have a dry mouth or lips. Also, your other mucous membranes in your nose also would be dry if you are dehydrated. Dry, sunken eyes. So those are more visible kind of changes that you'll be able to notice. Here is a diagram I got from Krauss, which just shows various symptoms or signs that occur with varying levels of percentage of body water loss or body weight loss. So if you have 0 to 1%, thirst would be the first one, like I've mentioned. And as you go further along, you'll get a stronger thirst. You'd feel vaguely discomfort, or uncomfortable, loss of appetite, and then your blood volume would be affected, impaired physical performance, and so the list goes on. So it's important that we are rehydrating, or making sure that we are well hydrated, so that we don't have negative impacts on our cognitive function, our physical function, and our body function. So recommendations, these vary with age, gender, activity, medical condition, and physical condition. In general, you should aim for 1.5 to 2 liters, but at Jeff, we recommend 2 to 3 liters, just because our average client, the weight and age and everything. So we normally recommend that amount. But I will later show you more specific amounts if you want to calculate your recommended fluid intake. But just to give you an idea of why we do that, it's just because of the average client we see. And also taking into consideration that you will be exercising as well. And if you are exercising, you need to make sure you're drinking more. Also, if it's hot or humid where you are, it's another reason why you need to make sure you're drinking more. A nice thing, so this is something particularly important for me because I battle with water, is drinking plain robust tea or non-caffeinated tea actually can count towards your water intake. And it's great if you are now going into winter, like us in South Africa. It's great to actually have that as an option, because sometimes cold water is very difficult to drink when it's getting colder outside. Other fluids that you can include in your diet are beverages like milk, juice, soups and broths, coffee, tea, but water is always the best choice. And also drinking enough water helps improve satiety. There have been lots of studies on obesity and water intake and calorie intake. And quite often there is those who drink more water generally have a lower energy intake in their diet, because it's often replacing other fluids that would contribute towards your calorie intake or your energy intake. So it's great to make sure you're drinking enough water, not just because you need to rehydrate, but also to help reduce the amount of food or number of calories you're taking in, and it'll help you better maintain your weight within a healthy range. So in pregnancy and breastfeeding, you make sure that you're drinking more than the recommended amount for your general adult, so more than 1.5 to 2 liters, or at Jeff 2 to 3 liters, because in pregnancy your body is changing. There's an expansion of your blood volume, among other various changes in the body. So you need to make sure you are getting more. During pregnancy, aim for about 2.3 liters or 9.5 cups of fluid per day. So it's quite a lot. And then it also helps with the constipation, because that is quite often an issue in pregnancy. Pregnant women often get constipated, so making sure you drink enough water will help assist with that. And breastfeeding, it's a bit more water, so it's about, fluid is about 3.1 liters or 12.5 cups. So yeah, quite a lot. A nice tip is every time you breastfeed your child, you can drink a glass of water to help you stay well hydrated. Then, like I mentioned earlier, the recommended amounts vary with age, gender, etc. But these are just different methods you can use to more specifically work out your fluid requirements. So a common one is method 1. Normally use the upper end, so 35 mils per kg body weight. So basically, you just take your body weight and you times by 35 mils to get your volume of water or fluid you need to take in a day. So you can try and calculate it now if you guys want to. I'm sure there's some of you doing it already. Method 2 would be 1 mol of fluid per calorie consumed. So if you know how many calories you're supposed to have in your diet, you can, or how many you're taking in, and if you use MyFitnessPal or other various apps also that help track your calorie intake. But basically, you could just times it or just take the equivalent number of moles as your calories. But again, bearing in mind, if you are exercising or if it is hotter, you need to make sure you're drinking above that. And also, while you're exercising, we try and aim for about 150 moles to I think it's 150 to 350 moles every 15 to 20 minutes to make sure that we are well hydrated during exercise. But you don't need to be too specific on that. Don't sit there measuring. Rather, just make sure you're regularly drinking water throughout the exercise session to avoid dehydration. And also post-exercise, what you could do is just weigh yourself before you exercise, and then weigh yourself afterwards, and then make sure that you replenish that loss. So about 20 to 50% of more than the weight you lost within the 4 to 6 hours after exercise is a good way to make sure you're drinking enough. Then the third method is, your first 10 kgs, you times it by 100 moles per kg, so that's about a liter. It is a liter. And then the second 10 kgs times by 50 moles per kg, so that gets you to 1.5 liters. And then the remaining kgs, you times 20 moles per kg if you're under 50, or if you're over 50, 15 moles per kg. And then the last method is just looking at the various age groups and then just taking your basic moles per kg. So you can have a look at that over there and try and calculate it, or quickly jot it down so you can calculate it. But that's just a nice way of knowing, more precise amounts of fluid that you should be taking in based on your age and your weight. Okay, so tips. Drink a glass of water or drink with every meal and snack is a nice one to do. So if you battle with tracking your water and you don't have a water bottle around, a nice one is just to make sure you're doing that. So if you're having 4 meals a day, that's at least 4 glasses of 300 mils, at least 1.2 liters that you're getting in. Or if you're having 5 meals, then obviously it would be more. And a glass being about 300 mils per glass. So it's a nice way of making sure you're drinking, because you have to eat. And so when you eat, just remember to drink something as well. What you could do also is drinking a glass of water when you wake up before you go to bed. Bearing in mind, though, if you are someone who struggles to eat in general or needs smaller portions, for example, if you had a gastric, surgery, anything, that affects your intake, or, you just generally feel nauseous in the morning, try and make sure you eat before you drink. But that's just a nice way of making sure you drink enough water through the day, and also, again, helps with your portion control, because if you're someone who likes to feel full, having a glass of water will help obviously give you that feeling of fullness and not lead to overindulge or eating too much food. Keeping a fresh glass of water with you at your desk or at hand at work is a nice one, not only because it's readily available to you, so you can drink when you think about it, but also it helps remind you. Just having that on your desk to look at helps remind you. I've got my water bottle. This is actually my backup one. I've got another one, but I left it in the car. But yeah, just having this with me helps remind me to drink. Like I said, I battle with it, so it's something I need to do. And actually today I decided to try something new. I have my cat's water bowl here next to me, and he is ridiculously good at drinking water. He drinks a ton of water. I know so because he, apart from the fact that I have to fill up his bowl all the time, but also his litter box is often quite full. So I decided every time he drinks, I'm going to drink, and not just drink when he's drinking, but for the full time he drinks. And my word, it is working. So yeah, anything that'll help you guys, drink more water is good. These are just various tips, but find what works for you. There's also water drinking apps. Some people love those because they have little reminders that tell you when to drink, and also you can track how much water you've had in the day. Having cold water is more appetizing. So yeah, make sure your water is cold. And again, if it's really cold where you are, then maybe drink some plain non-caffeinated tea. And then if you're thirsty, don't ignore it. Rather just drink water when you feel thirsty, or like I said, drink regularly throughout the day before you get to that point where you are thirsty. And then yeah, carrying a bottle with you wherever you go just helps make sure that it is with you, but also reminds you to drink. So yeah, my bottle's in the car because I normally take it with me everywhere I go, but then I left it in the car. So that's why I have my backup green bottle here. But yeah, have a backup bottle, because I know some of you only have one bottle, and it doesn't help because, like me, you'll leave it somewhere at some point and then you don't have a bottle, and then you can end up backsliding a bit with your water intake. Okay, so there are various different fluids that you can consume. Like I said, that'll help towards your fluid intake. So water is obviously the best one because it is calorie free, and it's a great way to quench your thirst. Making sure you have cold water is more appetizing, but there's also various things you could add to your water just to increase freshness or flavor. My husband in particular, before we were married, he was very, very bad with water. I don't know if he's going to watch this, but he was not good with water. And he had to have, diluted juices or energizer things every time he drank, because he just couldn't drink water. He just thought, no, he's not one of those people that drink water. And he's actually gotten amazing. I think he drinks more water than me now, which is impressive, but also I need to up my game a bit. But yeah, he tried adding things to his water to make it more, appetizing or appealing or refreshing. So here are just some examples, like cucumber is a nice one, celery. You can even use herbs, fresh herbs like basil or ginger or mint, and also strawberries, berries, other fruit. Lemon and lime are great because they are, or any of your berries and lemon and lime, those are your low energy, low carb kind of based fruit. With Jeff, we say a quarter cup of the low energy fruit counts towards one non-starchy veg. So you can use these to help add some flavor to the water and also some good nutrients, especially like I mentioned earlier, there are some water soluble vitamins, so they can also seep into the water and add some flavor and nutrients. Fruit and vegetable juices are, you can have them, but just bear in mind that fruit or eating the vegetables are far better because the fiber content and also the sugar content, it's obviously more concentrated when you have it as a fluid rather than actually having it as a meal. So if you think about an apple versus apple juice, and an apple will obviously fill you up longer than having apple juice. So rather go for the fruit or vegetable where you can. But if you want to have it, 125 mils or half a cup is equivalent to one serving of fruit. Ideally, you should try and dilute this with some water. So have half a cup of juice and half a cup of water. This is great also for your kids, just making sure that things aren't too sweet because it does affect your taste buds. So if you're someone who likes sweet things, your taste buds in your tongue adjust over time. So if you're having sweet things all the time, you're more likely to crave sweet things. Same with salt, spicy food. So just trying to reduce or dilute your juice or sweetened beverages will help adjust your taste buds and also reduce your cravings. So especially if your kids like sweet things, there's something good to do with them to make sure you are reducing the sweetness of the things that they're consuming. Always go for 100%. There are the variations like your cocktails, your punches, etc., but those often are high in sugar, lower in nutrients. We refer to them often as empty calories. Same with other, your soft drinks. Empty calories meaning that they are higher in calories but lower in nutrients. So not ideal choices. Not saying you can't have them. Every food has its place. Every item has its place, but just making sure you're having those less frequently and opting for the healthy options. Milk, fortified soy, or other sort of dairy alternatives also contribute towards your fluid intake. So we can aim for about 500 ml or 2 cups of low-fat milk or other alternatives. Why low fat? Just because it's lower in calories and lower saturated fat. It's not to say that you can't have full cream. You can, but just bearing in mind that it will affect your calorie intake and your saturated fat intake. If you want to know more about saturated fats, there is another ed that I did on various fats and which ones are healthier than others and how frequently we should have them in our diet. So I suggest you go and have a look at that. But yeah, those are just basic principles of that. Soft drinks, like I mentioned earlier, are high in sugar and calories and offer lower in nutrients. So not ideal, trying to limit those. And diet ones, are fine, but they often also can contain caffeine. Caffeine is a diuretic, so it does increase your urine output. It also has other various impacts on our body, which is why we shouldn't have too much of it. But I'll talk about that now as we go further. Broths and soups can be high in sodium, so sodium is your salt. Ideally, try and make your own soups and broths. And if you're going to buy something, just check the label. The low or the best, the ones that are best are the ones that are 120 milligrams per 100 grams. So you always compare the 100-gram column because serving sizes vary between various products. And good sources would be less than 400 milligrams per 100 grams. Anything above 600 milligrams per 100 grams is considered high in sodium. So try and limit those. Again, you can have them, but then just need to take into consideration the amount of salt you're taking in the day. So if you're having an item that is high in sodium, make sure your other items are low in sodium because we only need about a teaspoon of salt a day. And that is in food or added to food. So in other words, in the product that you buy or when you're cooking, you're adding it to the food. So that's roughly how much salt we need. Sport drinks aren't really necessary unless you are exercising hard or in hot climates or with a lot of sporting equipment on. But usually, we usually get enough from our diet. If you're eating a healthy diet, you get your electrolytes and nutrients replaced through that. Or if you want to, you can use sport drinks for more longer duration exercise to help replenish your electrolytes. But again, it's not really necessary for shorter, like 45 minutes or less exercise. It's not really necessary. Tea and coffee, they do not dehydrate, but again, caffeine is a diuretic, so that can increase urination and impact your heart and various other things, which is why we don't need too much of it in our diet. Roughly about 400 milligrams per day, which is equivalent to about 750 mils or 3 cups of black coffee, or 1 liter, 4 cups of black tea. So like I said, some teas have caffeine in. Your normal, your English teas or 5 Roses will have caffeine in it. A Robusta tea won't. So just have a look on your labels or just look up online to see which ones will have caffeine and which don't. If you're wanting to have more than the recommended amount, then just go for decaf coffees or herbal teas. Decaf does still contain caffeine, it's just less caffeine. So just be wary of that. But so just still watch how much you're taking in, but you will be able to have a little bit more if you are having decaf. And then limit your specialty drinks or coffees and teas. So the ones when you go out and you say, can I please have a latte or a chai latte with espresso shots and things like that. They just have extra sugar and quite often they use the full cream, which again is high calories. I'm not saying you can't have it. It just is higher in calories and can replace other more nutrient-dense foods. So you can find sometimes when you drink those lovely coffees and teas that you generally don't feel as hungry and don't, eat the things that you should eat, like your fruit and veg. So just bear that in mind when you are going out and ordering your lovely luxury options. And then if you're pregnant, your caffeine limitations should be, or you should limit it further. So only 2 cups of coffee, or about 500 mils, or 750 to 750 mils, or 3 cups of tea. This does vary with people because some people are more caffeine sensitive than others. So yeah, don't take this as gold. Rather run it by your doctor or dietitian. But yeah, those are some basic principles. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you have learned a lot. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments. I'm just battling to see the comments at the moment, but I will go through them and answer them. Yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you understand better why we recommend the amount of water we do in a day and the number of glasses of water. Yeah, have a great day.